We've got a great show on tap for you today. It is Jeff Goodman joining the program today from Stadium in the Field of 68. The most plugged-in college basketball insider that you will find is joining us on the program. We're going to talk all things, including some of the comments made on the Field of 68 from earlier in the week about Coach Boeheim, whether it's time to step down for him. He's going to dive into all that. Also, some more at-large state of the program stuff. How can this thing get turned around quickly? We'll dive into all of that. And the burning question on everyone's mind, Tim. Rick Pitino. That is coming up next.
You are Locked On Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up and welcome in. It's your Thursday Locked On Syracuse podcast. Tyler, Aki, and Tim Leonard. And it's our treat today. We've got Jeff Goodman on the program, insider at Stadium, also at the Field of 68. You can catch him on the Goodman and Hummel podcast. And Jeff, you're the perfect guy to bring on for this topic because you guys were just talking about this on the Field of 68. Here's the way we approach it, all right? You know how Syracuse fans feel about Doug Gottlieb, right? They're not the biggest of fans.
It's how every fan feels about Doug Gottlieb.
Right? And you sometimes too,
yes,
right?
I agree.
But when Syracuse fans agree with Doug Gottlieb on that clip that you guys put out on the Field of 68, you start to think it's kind of time. And if Saturday's loss against Duke didn't convince you that, okay, maybe you're starting to get into the territory of it's time for Boeheim to step away, then Tuesday certainly did. What are your feelings on, is this time for Boeheim to officially step away?
So I fight with, yes, I think it's time. But how do you tell a 77-year-old who has built this program that, like, all right, we're going to tell you when you're done, right? I approach it a different way. And maybe it's because I really like Jim, and I've had my ups and downs with him. Remember, I was the one, along with, I think, Cohen was can't remember his first name now, but we were the ones who asked them the two questions that prompted the, go get your Pulitzer somewhere else. Okay. So
right.
I've had my issues with Jim, but I always really appreciate Jim because there's no bullshit with him. And there's no bigger fan of Buddy Boeheim than me, period. Like I love the kid. I love the kid and I've seen where he's gone. So the family, Julie, like, I'm always kind of careful on this thing because, yes, I think it's the best thing for the program's future that Jim Boeheim retires. But I also look at it from Jim Boeheim's perspective and say, okay, I built this shit. If I want to go another year and coach Jimmy, if he's eligible next year, I deserve the right to do that. And he does. He deserves the right. Nobody's going to tell him he doesn't, right? And the other part is my dad's almost 80, and he retired years ago. He was a clothing salesman, and he retired years ago and stopped working for a year. And like Jim, he needs people. He loves to talk. Jim loves to talk, right? We know that. If Jim Boeheim retires, my dad retired for a year and now is working at a shoe store, a mom and pop shoe store, making like $14 an hour down at Cape Cod for 9 months of the year. And my mom and I both felt like, you know what? He needs to do this. He's older, but like he needs this to stay young. And he also needs this because, my mom will go out of her mind if he's with her every single day. So I understand it. From Jim's perspective, I'm sure he's thinking, like, what else am I going to do? I don't have a bunch of hobbies. I love coaching. And as he said to me before the year, when I asked him about it, I said, I'm not the one running up and down the court. Right? He's not. His mind is still, I'm telling you, as sharp as it was 15, 20 years ago. I don't think anybody would dispute that. But again, where the program's gone to right now, I looked at it. I mean, their recruits, they haven't gotten pros. They haven't had real pros over the last 6, 7, 8 years. They've had guys that have made the league, but not real pros. So, and they haven't had like big time years in the ACC. They've been floundering, right? They get in. They've been fortunate, to be honest, to get in the tournament a couple times. and make a run. And that's kind of saved probably more people of saying he should retire earlier.
Yeah, I think it's interesting too, because you're right. Jim Boeheim is still probably looks like he did when he was 60, 65. And there's a lot of reason to not get mad at Jim Boeheim because he's built the program to what it is now.
Yep.
But also, I feel like there's a portion of the fan base that says this era right now is not the best era for Jim Boeheim to be coaching because it's the transfer portal era, because he's hard on freshmen. He plays 7 or 8 guys max. And then the 2-3 zone, there's some case to be made now that maybe the 2-3 zone's a little outdated. They played Miami earlier this year, and Charlie Moore is chucking up shots from 35 feet, and it's going in. And Boeheim postgame is like, what are you going to do? He just made some tough shots. So is that a fair assessment that maybe this isn't the best era for Jim Boeheim to be coaching?
Yeah, I mean, I think times have changed, and some people adapt better than others. I think Coach K has done a great job adapting to it. Jim, maybe not quite as much as Coach K, but what I will say too is it can get worse. It can get worse than it is right now. Trust me, it can. Will it? I don't know if they make a change, but all right, for instance, Mike Hopkins is out at Washington. Well, we all follow Hop because he was going to be the next coach at Syracuse, right? Everybody thought he was going to kill it at Washington. Takes over, does a really good job early, then gets into first round to, I don't know if McDaniels went first round, but he was supposed to. And Isaiah Stewart did. He ended up going mid-first round. And they're disappointing with those guys. And people are like, this sucks. He didn't do anything with them. Now they're terrible. They're absolutely terrible. Nobody thought that was going to be the case. So it can get worse is all I'm saying. It's not good right now, this year especially, because they're not going to be a tournament team. They're just not. We know that right now. And it's sad because, I had kind of illusions of, and I'm sure Jim and Jimmy and Buddy did, and, this being kind of a magical story, right? You're coaching your 2 kids. You get to the NCAA tournament. Maybe you ride out in the sunset. Maybe that's it. And that's how I envision this year. And maybe that's what it'll be, guys. Maybe after this, if Jimmy doesn't get another year, Jim will say, you know what? I did it. It was really cool. I'm good now. I'm good. And I'm gonna leave it to either Red or Jerry. I don't know who gets it. I mean, that's the other big question that we don't know who it's going to be now. It's not going to be Mike Hopkins, but I would think it's going to be one of those two. But yeah, I get it. In this era, it's different with Jim, and the younger generation has grown up with even you guys to some extent. You haven't seen it when it was really rolling. And I don't know if people appreciate what he built and was able to sustain in Syracuse, New York. It's like UConn, similar with Jim Calhoun in Storrs, Connecticut. Those are tough places. There aren't a lot of Northeast schools, guys, that have a lot of success with college basketball. There really aren't. I mean, you could be St. John's. They've sucked for a long time. You could be Georgetown. They've sucked for a long time. Now, that may be what you're trending towards. I don't know. Nobody knows that.
I look at it too, and everyone says, he built the program. He didn't just build the program. I mean, he built the damn university pretty much when you really think about it.
Yes.
But what do you say to the fan who thinks this is still like it's the meme of the dog sitting there with the coffee and the fire in the background? Like, this is fine. Like, what do you say to the fan who wants one more bite at this apple and thinks that this can still be turned around in the Boeheim regime?
I think they're going to have, the hard part too is obviously everybody that they recruit. Now the negative recruiting comes out, and it's been there for a while. Well, he's not going to be there long. So I almost feel like you did with Hop, you might have to just announce whoever the next coach is. Do it now. That way, at least when you get recruits, it's, hey, we're selling Red or we're selling GMAC, whoever it is, you're selling them. Kind of like this year Duke did with Shire. Right? Like that wasn't, look at what now again, Syracuse is not going to recruit at the level that John Shire has done at Duke, but it worked. It worked because they sold it. Boeheim can help and say, hey, listen, here's the next guy, and really try to kind of set this in motion. It's going to happen in the next couple of years. We know that. I mean, he's not going till he's 85, And again, I said this Saturday night to Gottlieb. My big thing is I don't want to see something happen where Jim Boeheim can't make this decision on his own. It's made for him. Like Lute Olson was a guy, again, I went to Arizona. I became very close with over the last 15 years. And part of the problem with Lute Olson was he didn't go out. He had some health problems. And then he couldn't determine when he wanted to go out. It was made for him. I do not want to see that from Jim Boeheim. I have too much respect for him. I'm just such a fan of Jim, again, because he is who he is. There's no, like, again, does he make mistakes with people? Like sometimes I get mad at him when he goes at a student, reporter or a young reporter. That bothers me. And I think I've even said something to Jim about that. But man, you're not going to find too many guys, Hall of Fame coaches, that when you go on your college visit with your daughter are going to spend an hour plus in his office just talking about Syracuse, telling stories. Like, just doesn't happen, guys. It just doesn't happen. Like Jim Boeheim at his core. And I almost feel like he doesn't want to hear it sometimes. Like he doesn't want to be known for being a really good guy. And maybe Julie's rubbed off on him and Buddy's rubbed off on him and Jimmy's rubbed off on him a little bit. But he is. He's a really good guy at his core.
Hey, this is it. The putt to win the tournament. If you sink it, the championship is yours. But on your backswing, your hat falls over your eyes. Is this how you're running your business? Poor visibility because you're still relying on spreadsheets and outdated finance software? To see the full picture, you need to upgrade to NetSuite by Oracle. NetSuite is the #1 cloud financial system to power your growth with visibility and control of your financials, inventory, HR planning, budgeting, and more. NetSuite is everything you need to grow in all one place. With NetSuite, you can automate your processes and close your books in no time while staying well ahead of your competition. 93% of surveyed businesses increase their visibility and control after upgrading to NetSuite. Over 28,000 businesses already use NetSuite, and for the new year, NetSuite has a new financing program for those ready to upgrade at netsuite.com/locked. Head to netsuite.com/locked for the special one-of-a-kind financing offer on the #1 financial system for growing businesses. netsuite.com/locked.
So how surprised would you be if at the end of this season, you look down at your phone, Twitter notification, Jim Boeheim is out, and
Come on, give Goodman a little bit of credit here. He could be the one breaking
well,
that story.
Sure,
this guy's got the scoop of the year.
Yeah.
In
okay,
not
so
just
I'll
college
rephrase.
basketball,
How
the entire
surprised are you
sport
if you get a text
with
from a
Coach K.
source, Jim Boeheim is out at the end of the year?
It wouldn't shock me. No, it wouldn't shock me at all, especially if Jimmy doesn't get another year or decides he doesn't want to play another year of college basketball. I think that'll be the part that, they're going to have a conversation about that. Because I think if Jimmy comes back, I think Jim says, yeah, I'll coach another year for my son, with my son. Yeah, I think it's a 50-50 deal, to be honest. I think it's probably a 50-50 deal right now. And it might depend on how the season ends. If they just tumble down, and then they finish towards the bottom of the ACC, that might have something to do with it. Either way, he may say, I don't want to go out this way. Or he may say, listen, you know what? I've had it. I've had it at this point. I don't need this.
So the trendy name right now among Syracuse fans to replace Boeheim is not any of the in-house guys right now. It's Rick Pitino. That's the guy that a lot of people want. I mean, could you see a world where that could happen?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, obviously, listen, the guy might be the best coach in the country. What he's done at Iona is ridiculous, but not all that surprising. He comes with baggage. We know that. But, Rick and Jim have a long history. We know that too. I just don't know. If I'm Jim Boeheim, don't I want to give it to somebody who's earned it, who's, who needs that opportunity? Like Rick's a stopgap. How many more years is he going to coach?
Right. 3 to 5.
Yeah. I mean, it's fine. Listen, Rick's a hell of a coach and he's doing it in the MAC. I don't know if he could do it again in the ACC at this stage. I'm not sure. I'd much prefer Jim Boeheim gives it to Red or GMAC and gives one of them a shot.
Do you think Rick would say yes?
He's got a big buyout right now, but yes, I do. I always thought he's super tight with a guy down at University of South Florida who owns one of the steak chains. I forget what it is now. It's slipping my mind. I always thought he'd end up in South Florida or Miami. Both of those schools, South Florida gave Brian Gregory an extension, God knows why, earlier this year. And Miami, Larrañaga is doing well. So I don't think he's going to be out after this year. But I always felt like Pitino, that's where he wants to. He loves Miami. I mean, he used to go down there. Like he'd have an off day at Louisville. You know, they practice on like Tuesday. They'd have an off day on Wednesday. The dude would take a plane down there, you know, private plane, and just for a day, just to go to Miami. And he had this, I don't know if he sold it, but he had a big time spot down there that he owned. So I don't know. I mean, I think Pitino's name is going to come up a lot. Again, I don't know what his buyout drops to. It was insane last year. I think it was like 10, 12 million. Syracuse, remember, they don't have like the deepest pockets.
Right.
To pay.
I mean, Boeheim's not a top 25 paid coach in the country right now.
And I've never heard Jim. Have you guys ever heard Jim Boeheim complain about that?
Yeah.
No, because I mean, you think about everything that goes along with it too. Like he is a king, as most college basketball coaches at big time universities are.
Like,
but like
Coach K is making like almost 10 million a year. That's his boy. You don't think he knows that? He's got to know what Coach K is making, but he's never held the university hostage for like I need
right. Like you think about it, like you talk about in any walk of life, tenure builds your salary. Right. Well, no one's more tenured at any university right now, and not even close, than Jim Boeheim. Right. And for him to not be one of the really should be 5 highest paid college basketball coaches. Yeah. When you think tenure, the success that he's had, he should be top 5. But no, you're right.
I wonder what he'll do. I do wonder what he'll do when he retires. Like, because I don't see him like sitting on a beach every day. Like I don't know what, you know, will he be the type of guy that comes in? Like if one of those assistants, GMAC or Red, get the job, you know, like Calhoun was around a lot when Kevin Ollie took over. Lute Olson was not around a lot when like Sean Miller took over, but that wasn't his guy, right? Like if it's your guy, and honestly, Calhoun was around too much from what I heard. Like it was almost like Kevin Ollie was like, all right, enough is enough, Jim. You know, you can't be at every damn practice. I wonder how Boeheim will be with that. You know, I don't know. Listen, college basketball will not be the same without Jim Boeheim. He is just,
he's the last of the old Big East.
He is. And again, like there's just no bullshit with Jim Boeheim. Like so many of these coaches that I deal with on a day-to-day basis, you have to sift through the bullshit. There's none of that with Jim. You know exactly what. That's the best part. Like I loved Calhoun for that because he would MF me, absolutely MF me, and then the next day it was forgotten. It was like, okay, we hashed it out, and Boeheim's not quite to the level of Calhoun. He's not quite as vulgar, I think would be a good term. And like Calhoun was intimidating. He was scary. When I was a young guy breaking in, and when I was dealing with Jim in some of those press conferences and whatnot, you were like, I don't know if there's ever, the only 2 coaches I can think of that I've been scared to ask a question to in a press conference setting were Bob Knight and Jim Calhoun. Those are the only 2 people. I think they might be the only 2 people in any, and I've covered, you know, Belichick. I've covered, you name it, in baseball with the Red Sox, every sport, hockey. And I don't think I've ever been intimidated in a press conference setting to ask a question like I have been with Bob Knight and Calhoun. Boeheim's not intimidating, but you never know what you're going to get. And if he's going to come back at you, you know, so I will miss him whenever he decides to go. Selfishly, I hope he does not decide to go after this year, but they probably got to try to make some changes. The portal might help too, guys. The portal might help. You know, the fact that you can get either really good or really bad quickly. You know, I wonder how much it's hurt him to have his 2 sons on the team because of recruiting. Because other guys, you know, hey, they know like, all right, Buddy's on the team. He's their best player. if I come there, I'm not going to get as many shots. It was similar to like Doug McDermott when he was at Creighton, I think a little bit. But Doug was at such an incredible level. I mean, he was National Player of the Year.
Right.
But they're similar personalities too, Buddy and Doug. Like, I don't know who wouldn't want to play with Buddy. Like, again, like the dude's the best kid in the world. But he gets his shots.
Yeah, and even not his own son, but Joe Girard's there. And last year, the big topic was Kadari Richmond versus Joe Girard. Richmond leaves for Seton Hall, and there were some reports that Richmond went up to Jim Boeheim in the offseason and said, what's my path to starting? And he basically, said Joe Girard's our starter right now.
Yeah.
And he's been up and down this year. So that's one that, you'd like to have a Kadari Richmond if you could.
Totally.
But
yeah,
the transfer portal era, you're right. It could benefit you. It could help you. And I think that's one reason for, okay, maybe he gets this turned around. I made the joke with Tyler that it's almost like he's at the blackjack table and he's just trying to find the right moment to leave, sort of. And when you get rolling, you never want to leave. Like he goes to the Final Four. Okay, I'll keep going. He goes to the Sweet 16 last year. All right, Jimmy's coming. I'll keep going. And you just worry that he doesn't get to the point where he's down $2,000 at the blackjack table and he's still sticking around and they're in the Pittsburgh.
I leave now. Tim, I've learned over the years, and I'm not his age. I've learned when to leave. Like, now I got my ass kicked in Puerto Rico, but the first couple nights I was up
but it's tough.
It is tough though.
When you get going, you don't want to leave. So I don't know. I think the question now becomes, all right, do they go in family or outside the family? And I'm with you. It seems pretty likely it's in family.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, who are you hiring outside of the family? Even Pitino is sort of in the family.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going outside the family. That would be such a slap in the face to the two guys on the bench right now. Such a slap. They're both ready. Now, again, there'll be some changes made, I'm sure, when they take over. But they're both ready. The question is, again, I thought Cole Swider was going to be better this year. I just didn't think he would come out not shooting the ball like he did early in the season. And I thought Buddy would be better from three than he is. I knew there were going to be lows because I knew there were going to be nights when they didn't make shots and they can't guard.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought there'd be more highs. I thought there'd be more games where those three guys were shooting the shit out of the ball and they could just outscore you. And there haven't been that because, Buddy hasn't shot as well from three. And you have to. Like, when you have those dudes, Joe Girard still – I've just always felt like Joe Girard would have been a hell of a first guard off the bench for a really good team. Because
we always say, too,
really a point to me.
Yeah, as a two guard, he would thrive a lot better, too.
Yes. He's not a point. You cannot win, and I've said this over and over and over, and they make fun of me on After Dark because I say it all the time. I put way too much into point guard play. But to me, if you don't have a high-level point guard, you have no shot. And I think Joe's gotten better in some ways, but I think he's stagnated in others. And I just don't think he's a natural point. He's a scorer. He is a scorer. And there are a lot of scoring points these days around the country. That's kind of the way the position's gone. But I just feel like, Joe, the hard part is like, you got to be able to drive and kick and have vision and be able to drive too and get by dudes. And he's limited. And I think he almost has to think too much because it's always been ingrained in him to be a scorer. And now it's that changing of the mindset that he's had over the last few years. So I think that's a big part of it too.
BetOnline would like to wish you a happy new betting year as we continue our march to the playoffs and beyond. BetOnline remains the #1 spot for all the best sports wagering action for 2022. With a new year and a new updated desktop and mobile website, you need to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. All you got to do is use our promo code LOCKEDON. That's locked on, all one word, to get started to get that 50% welcome bonus. From football, basketball, hockey, boxing, and UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for 2022. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports, and you'll get a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit when you use our promo code LOCKEDON. BetOnline is where the game starts.
Also want to tell you guys about an incredible app everyone who buys gas needs to know about. It's called Get Upside. Our listeners are earning cash back for every gallon of gas every single time they fill up. Just download the free Get Upside app in the App Store or Google Play right now. Use promo code SCORE for 25 cents per gallon or more on your first fill up, cash back. Don't pay full price at the pump anymore. Get cash back using Get Upside. Just download that app for free. Use promo code SCORE for 25 cents per gallon or more on your first tank. Some people who drive a lot are making as much as $200 to $300 a year in cash back, and there's no catch. The cash back gets added right to your account. You can cash out anytime to your bank account, PayPal, or an e-gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Get Upside app and use promo code SCORE to get 25 cents per gallon or more cash back on your first tank. That's code SCORE.
A lot of fans aren't too inspired by what could be next in the coaching pipeline, whether it's GMAC, whether it's Red, even if it were to be a return of Hop.
Yep.
Why do you think that this thing could maybe get turned around a little bit quicker than some fans may anticipate if it is one of these new guys, specifically with Red and GMAC, who have never had head coaching experience?
Yeah, I mean, listen, you don't know until it happens. I mean, I can say it all I want that you got confidence in these guys, but you don't know. They've been assistant coaches. I think the world out of both Red and GMAC. I think they're both ready for head coaching jobs, but there's a difference between, getting the Niagara job or even the St. John's job and getting the Syracuse job, right? Now, you know it well. That's the benefit. You've been there. You know it extremely well. But again, right now with where the program is and where the expectations are, you've got a long way to go to get there. And the other part is it's going to be interesting. Whoever gets the job, the other one, whoever doesn't get the job. That's always the tough part, guys. The staff dynamic on something like that. Does Hop come back as, with like GMAC being the head coach? I don't know. I mean, Hop's made a lot of money. He doesn't need to. He can stay out in the West Coast. He could go to LA, go back home to LA and live on the beach if he wants and be done. Chris Mack just basically got, forced out of, he quit right now, but he's 51 and he told me he's retired. So I don't know. I don't know how this is going to play itself out. And a lot depends on your staff. And with this staff, again, there's going to be some interesting dynamics they're going to have to work through with whoever gets the job. What if Pitino comes in? How do they react to that? Listen, they both are hoping they're going to get that job right now. And if Pitino comes in, shit, they may both be gone. Rick may bring his staff with him from Iona. Who the hell knows? Now, I don't think Rick's going to get the job. I think it's going to be one of those two guys.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you can't do the plan that you laid out earlier, the Duke plan of, all right, this is going to be the next coach, lay it out a year in advance. And I think even Jim Boeheim hinted at once Duke and Coach K sort of formalized that plan that he would like to do something like that. So
they should do it now. They should, when this season ends, if Jim Boeheim doesn't retire, they need to make a decision and do that now because it can only help recruiting.
Right. What would you say? Because, you touched on Louisville, Maryland, those jobs come open, and then the conversation becomes, all right, is this a top 10? Is this a top 20 job in the country? What is Syracuse to you? Is it top 20, top 30, top 10?
20 to 30.
Yeah.
Just location makes it tough, guys.
Yep.
Location makes it tough. There's some other cold friggin' places. So it's not even like the cold, the snow, all that. Like the whole Big Ten. I was just in Chicago. It was -5 yesterday. So Illinois, that's not a great place in terms of where you want to be in the winters. So it's more that it's tucked up in its own corner and it's hard to get to. That's probably the hardest part of Syracuse. I still think it's a top 20 to 30 job nationally. I wouldn't put it in the top 10. And that's why, again, what they did there and the success that Boeheim's been able to sustain, and now the expectations. Now, again, should Syracuse be in the tournament every year? Yeah, they should be. Fans have, I think that's realistic expectations to be in the tournament every year at Syracuse. Now, the expectations to like get to Final Fours, I don't know. I mean, it's not easy to get to Final Fours these days. Even Kentucky, they've been in a cold spell of not being able to get in the Final Four in a few years now. And shit. Think about this, guys. Duke hasn't won an ACC regular season title since 2010, I believe.
Yep.
And you thought this had to be the year, and it still might not be right now. I mean, they're in third,
isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's not quite as easy as it seems. I mean, Tony Bennett was running this damn league in the regular season for a long time now, and they've had a horrible year this year. That's probably the hardest part of all this. If you're a Syracuse fan, is you're looking at the league and saying this league stinks. It's mediocrity upon mediocrity, and we're still not. Because I really think whoever finishes second and third in the ACC, no matter what you did, pretty much in the non-conference, I don't think it matters. I think you're going to get in the NCAA tournament. So if you're Syracuse, you just had to be the best of the mediocrity, and you're not that. You're not that.
Yeah, I mean, we always talk on this program too. It's like the ACC isn't great because of the Duke and Carolina. Like you expect Duke and Carolina to be up there every year. What makes it great is the depth, and it's the Syracuses, the Louisvilles, the Virginias, the Florida States. This year with Miami, Virginia Tech, like those are the programs that are supposed to uplift it. And right now, you're part of the problem as to why the ACC isn't great right now.
Yeah, and you should be. Now, again, Miami is old. They have four 6-year guys in their starting lineup. So, maybe that's the way you got to go right now. But Syracuse isn't young. The problem is they've got 5 dudes, and that's all they play really at this point for the most part. And they've got some holes in how the roster is constructed, right? Like you got your shooters. That's awesome. But you need your athletes. You need your athletes around your shooters. Benny Williams obviously isn't ready. Because if he was, and I know people are like, well, he should play more. If he was ready, Jim would play him. He'd find a way to get him in the court. So I just can't imagine he's ready.
Yeah, and I think I'm with you. Like, he wouldn't help them win games at this point. But then Tyler and I have the argument that even if it's not going to help you win games, it's kind of a lost season. And he's a 5-star freshman that you need next year. And it's a transfer portal era. And
I get that now, Tim. I get from today forward, I'm in agreement with you.
Yeah.
I might give Benny Williams 30 minutes a game.
That's what I said. I said start him every game and give him 30 minutes.
I agree. And if you lose, you lose. You're losing anyway. But you better keep Benny Williams, because if you don't, that's another hole you're going to have to fill.
Right. And that's the argument as to, you laid out how Miami got old. Syracuse has a solid recruiting class coming in next year where they have 5 guys that you think could be 3 to 4 year guys. And I still maintain that even though college basketball has changed, the best teams, the one that win it all, the Villanovas, UNCs, they did it with experienced rosters. So that's a key to doing it. But also, Jim Boeheim doesn't really like to play freshmen. And you look back on even when Deion Waiters was there, he was super unhappy, but he came back. Yep. Would he have come back in this era, though? I don't think so, because now you can just bolt and there's so many options out there.
Yeah, there's no way he comes back now.
Right.
Again, I think he's got a solid class coming in. I've seen Peter Carey and Bunch. I think, again, we'll see. You mix those. It's hard to win with freshmen right now. That's the only thing I'd say. It's hard to win with freshmen. So to me, you better bring in a bunch of transfers and get lucky. It's honestly, a lot of it is just like you said, it's playing like roulette, or craps with some of these transfers, because you don't know them. And, you look at a lot of the guys, the point guards that were in the portal this year, Remy Martin, not doing well at Kansas. Marcus Carr, not doing well at Texas, really. A lot of these guys are struggling. And then you look at, I was there the other night at, like I said, Illinois, and the kid Alfonso Plummer, Utah transfer, has been friggin' awesome. Just
look at Wake, too, in the conference. Wake is skyrocketing based on a lot of transfers.
Right. And Forbes, again, Forbes said to me, the coach at Wake, he was like, listen, he didn't go out and recruiting. He wasn't allowed to. Gets the head job and isn't allowed to go recruiting for almost 2 years. So he did it all over the phone, sight unseen. There's some luck involved, guys.
Yeah.
There's some luck involved. And, again, Syracuse probably hasn't gotten a ton of luck. But we'll see. We'll see.
Now, last thing here, and then we'll let you go. But I know it's part of the whole Jim Boeheim experience, but he comes out and talks about his center, Jesse Edwards, who in a season with a lot of lost things, there's one silver lining you can take from it, and that is Jesse Edwards has taken a monster step from not playing really at all last year to now being one of the better centers in the entire conference. And then you've got the whole Benny Williams situation where you've got a 3-star guy in John Boeheim who has done nothing for your program from an on-court standpoint, actively tried to transfer, received minimal to no interest, and is back. He plays John Bull 10 minutes and then gives Benny 2 pity minutes at the end of the game. And then after the game, after Jesse, okay, it wasn't his best game, but he's been very good. And you go out and chastise him after. Like, that's something that Jim Boeheim has to sort of pull back on if he wants to continue to survive in this era.
Yeah, you got to think about that, but that's not Jim's strength, right? Jim's strength is reacting. He's not thinking down the road necessarily. He's upset with Jesse for that game or maybe the practice the day before or whatever it is, and he's going to let you know instead of you're right. Like, hey, listen, Jim, the best thing you can do here, you want Jesse back next year. You don't want him to go in the portal. So if you get Jesse back and Benny and Jimmy comes back and you got this freshman class and you add maybe 3 more transfers and you hit it with 2 of them, then you got a team. Then you got a team now that's capable of at least getting back in the NCAA. I just want to see Jim Boeheim go out in the NCAA tournament. How's that? Is that fair? Like, that's the only reason why I'd like to see. I would have loved to see that with Buddy. Doesn't Buddy have another year? Couldn't he? Could
come back.
I think he said the other day, though, he's not. But I wouldn't, like, with the NIL money, I mean, he's Mr. Everything. I mean, he's selling like slides and
is he?
And
he's
like
on cereal boxes
and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like,
really?
Like, I don't know if you have a ranking of this, of who's making the most money in college basketball, but Buddy's got to be top 10.
Well, you'd be surprised what the dudes in.
Well, maybe not by dollar amount, but in terms of number of deals that he has signed. I mean, he is everywhere.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Like I said, I love him. Might be my favorite kid I've like in a while that I've been around. I mean, again, I'll give you this story and I'll let you go off this, but we go to Syracuse, my daughter and I, we drive up, the 2 of us, and I text Buddy. I'm like, hey, I'm here for the day. I think we were only there for a day. We stayed over. We were going to leave that night, and we stayed for the game. So we ended up staying halfway, drove back halfway to Boston. But I texted him. I'm like, hey, man, we're here. I'd love to see you. Love my daughter to meet you. And he's like, yeah, just come on over the apartment. And, text
the
me.
Whole damn team in there.
We come over. Yeah, it's him and Jimmy. And I'd never met Jimmy at this point. And literally, we're just shooting the shit, the 4 of us, for like 45 minutes before practice. And like, no rush, no pretense, like just a regular dude who like gets it in every single way. So I'm glad he's done well. And, I hope he gets a shot at the league. And I think he will, because again, there aren't many guys with his size that can shoot it the way he shoots it. He hasn't shot it as well this year. But again, it's hard. It's hard every time, he puts the ball on the floor, every time he comes off a screen, like somebody's there, and they should be, he should be doubled.
All right. Well, Jeff, appreciate your time. Thanks for hopping on with us. You're one of our favorites. We love having you on. We appreciate your insight, and check them out. Field of 68, the Goodman and Hummel podcast. You can also catch them after dark on the Field of 68 as well. Appreciate your time, Jeff.
No, listen, thanks guys. Thanks for everything you do for the Field of 68, starting this thing up. We wouldn't have done it without you. You know that. You guys carry Doster, so I appreciate it.
That's a pretty heavy burden right there, too.
No doubt. No doubt.
All right, awesome stuff with Jeff Goodman. That's going to be up on our YouTube channel if you're listening on the podcast feed. We appreciate you all listening and making us your first listen every single day. And be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. We're free and available on all platforms. That includes YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all that good stuff. The YouTube's been great lately. People have really enjoyed the interaction. We had our live show the other day. who knows? We might go live after Saturday if things get even steeper downhill after. I don't know how they can get worse. Paint me the picture, Tim, how things can get worse after Saturday.
Maybe Benny Williams, 0 minutes. Joe Girard, 0 for 18, 40 minutes. I don't know. I don't even want to think about it because it feels like we've already suffered too much pain.
I think Benny has to flat out say in a post-game presser, which I don't think he'd be brought because I don't think they're in locker rooms right now, the media. I think he has to say, I'm out. Like that's the only way this gets worse. Like that is the only way this could get worse. Again, he's been a great soldier this entire season. The fact that he goes on these radio shows, says, you don't have to worry about me. I'm not going anywhere. Even though things haven't been great for me right now, like I'm not going anywhere. And you got to tip your hat to what he has done as a person. You can say what you want. Has he lived up to expectations? Should he be playing more? All that stuff. Because he certainly hasn't lived up to expectations this year. But I mean, he's a 5-star in the recruiting rankings. He's been a 10-star human being. And in the end of the day, that's the most important thing. Although I know Syracuse fans may be a little bit unruly right now, but at least be happy that you got a good kid with a good head on his shoulders and will hopefully be back next season. That's the hope right now. But if he does say I'm out after Wake Forest, like that is a new way to create a deeper crater.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen.
I don't either.
Fingers crossed that he's back next year. We talked about how that's the priority now. Keep him happy.
Yeah. All right. That's going to do it for us. We'll have our Wake Forest preview with you guys tomorrow. Prop shop, all that fun stuff. That's on tomorrow's show. For Tim, I'm Tyler. We'll be back with you guys tomorrow.